That bone-deep tiredness you feel from carrying everyone else's feelings? It comes from playing a game you can't win, where your natural male strengths are treated as guilty until proven innocent. I'm going to show you how to break free from this draining trap, not by fighting or giving up, but by mastering your fire so well that its value becomes clear to everyone around you. By the end of this video, you'll have a clear path to use your masculine energy without saying sorry, turning the very traits society questions into your greatest strengths. Stop wasting your energy proving you're not a threat. Your masculine power isn't a problem to fix. It's a force to master. You're sitting across from someone at dinner. The talk flows easily until you share an opinion with certainty, with backbone. Their face changes just a little bit, but you catch it. That slight narrowing of the eyes, the small pulling back. In that moment, another layer of tiredness settles in your bones. The weariness of being misunderstood not for what you said, but for how naturally you said it. This isn't just about dinner talks. This is about living in a world where your masculine presence itself, your decisiveness, your drive to protect, your wish to solve rather than just listen, triggers suspicion, as if these qualities are a threat that must be watched, contained, apologized for. The thinker Kant talked about the idea that one should act by rules that could work for everyone. Yet modern men face a set of rules that don't make sense. Be strong, but not threatening. Be confident, but not too confident. Be protective, but not controlling. A set of double traps where being masculine itself is seen as a problem until proven otherwise. You've learned to make yourself smaller in certain spaces, to add needless "I think" or "maybe" before your words. You catch yourself doing it without thinking now. The endless self-editing and second-guessing. You're tired from constantly proving you're not a threat. What's the cost of living this way? Of carrying this constant, unseen burden against qualities that have built towns, protected communities, and solved mankind's biggest challenges for thousands of years? This isn't about politics or fighting against progress. This is about a deep mental wound that happens when men are taught that their core energy must be filtered, watered down, and always justified before it's seen as okay. Think about the last time you held back from speaking your mind in a meeting. Not because you didn't know the answer, but because you worried how your certainty might look. Would they call it mansplaining? Would your confidence be seen as aggression? The thinker Hegel talked about recognition, the human need to have others see and accept your full self. Yet you've learned to make yourself smaller, adding words like "I think" and "maybe" to soften how you come across. You've become your own censor, editing yourself before others can reject you. The modern thinker Charles Taylor wrote about being true to yourself as a moral ideal, the idea that being real has ethical value. But what happens when being true to your male nature brings suspicion? The toll is huge. Not just tiredness from watching yourself, but the heavy burden of having your true self treated as problematic. This creates what existentialists call bad faith, acting against your basic nature to fit others' expectations. The empty feeling in your chest after these moments isn't just disappointment. It's the quiet despair of betraying yourself. This pattern repeats everywhere. In relationships, where your drive to protect is seen as controlling. In parenting, where your boundaries are viewed with suspicion. In friendships, where your advice giving is seen as emotionally limited rather than truly helpful. The wound goes deeper than most men admit. There's a special kind of loneliness in having your core qualities, the traits that make you feel alive and purposeful. treated as guilty until proven innocent. It creates a split in your mind. The man you truly are versus the carefully edited version you present to avoid judgment. And what happens in that gap between real self and acceptable self? Depression grows. Purpose fades. Drive withers. Men hide in empty distractions or blow up in moments of built-up rage because there's nowhere for that blocked energy to flow naturally. Take a breath. Feel the weight of all the words you've swallowed. The most sneaky part? You've started to believe it yourself. Now you question your own instincts, doubt your natural responses, and feel shame about parts of yourself you once felt proud of. You're not protecting others by dimming your light. You're robbing them of your full presence. Drop a fire emoji if you felt this unseen weight pressing down on your chest, pushing your authentic self underground. Carl Jung understood the terrible effects of denying our basic nature. He gave us the idea of the shadow, those rejected parts of ourselves that don't disappear when pushed away, but instead grow more powerful and possibly harmful in the hidden parts of our minds. Jung would look at our current culture and see a huge shadow-building project happening around male energy. When natural male traits are treated with suspicion rather than channeled in good ways, they don't simply vanish, they transform. They don't go away when ignored, they go underground and grow teeth. What you most need will be found where you least want to look, Jung wrote. Our culture has become less willing to look at the real value and need for male virtues, creating a shadow that grows bigger every year. Think about how the ancient Greeks understood virtues. They knew that courage, decisiveness, protective strength, and honor weren't just male or female qualities. But they understood these energies needed proper development and social paths for healthy expression. The Greeks told this wisdom in the story of Prometheus, the titan who stole fire from the gods to give to humans. Fire is the perfect metaphor for male energy. It can warm a home or burn it down. The difference isn't in the fire itself, but in how it's channeled, respected, and contained. Modern society has forgotten this basic wisdom. Instead of teaching men to channel their natural fire in helpful ways, we've started treating the fire itself as the problem. We've moved from seeking proper containment to trying to put it out. But what happens when you try to put out the Promethean fire in men? It doesn't disappear. It goes underground. It smolders beneath the surface of politeness and compliance. And like any suppressed force, it eventually finds expression, often in twisted, unhealthy ways. Look at the rising tide of aimlessness in young men, the record levels of drug abuse, the retreat into video games and endless distractions, the pull toward extreme ideas that promise to restore a sense of strength and purpose. These aren't separate problems. They're connected symptoms of a culture that has made male energy into a problem rather than providing good channels for it. The fire hasn't been put out. It's burning without proper containment, without the wisdom of elders who know how to tend it properly. And everyone, men, women, and society at large, is suffering the results of this misguided approach. This historical understanding points toward a deeper question. If masculine energy is like fire, neither good nor bad in itself but powerful in what it can do, then what approach might guide its mastery rather than its suppression? We live in a world that wants masculine results while condemning masculine methods. We want protection without protectors, provision without providers, leadership without the traits that make good leaders, buildings without builders, defense without defenders. We want the fruits without honoring the roots. Think about how this shows up daily. A man who works hard to provide for his family is criticized for being a workaholic, disconnected from emotions. The man who makes quick decisions in a crisis is later questioned for not being team-oriented enough. The man who steps in to solve a problem is told he should have just listened instead. This creates what psychologists call an approach avoidance conflict, being pulled towards something and pushed away from it at the same time. Your male instincts pull you toward action, protection, and solution finding, while social messages push you to second-guess these same instincts as potentially toxic. The result? Mental paralysis, a deep, gnawing uncertainty about your own nature. The manipulator thrives in this environment. This is the voice that uses your real desire to be good to control you. It whispers that your strength must always be suspect, that your natural instincts can't be trusted, that you must constantly earn the right to express your core energy by making it acceptable to others first. You must prove you're innocent before you're allowed to exist fully. This manipulative message has wedged itself between men and their authentic power, creating generations of males who feel sorry about their very existence. You don't owe an explanation for your masculine fire. This energy has built civilizations, protected the vulnerable, and solved humanity's most pressing physical challenges throughout history. Your energy doesn't need a permission slip, but here's where the path forward begins to emerge. There's a big difference between apologizing for your nature and taking responsibility for how you express it. Masculine energy, like any powerful force, requires masterful containment. Not suppression, containment. The difference is crucial. Suppression comes from shame. Containment comes from respect for power. Suppression breaks you. Containment makes you powerful. Think about how differently the ancient warriors approached this mastery. The samurai didn't deny their deadly skill. They built an inner stillness that made its expression precise. Their power wasn't reduced, but refined through meditation, writing, and poetry. Practices that seemed opposite to their warrior nature. This reveals a profound truth. The most powerful containment of masculine energy comes not from constraint, but expansion. As you grow in areas beyond force, emotional intelligence, spiritual awareness, artistic expression, your ability to use your masculine fire with precision naturally increases. The Roman idea of gravitas captures this integration, a weighted presence that commands respect not through domination, but through embodied wisdom. Notice how men who have this quality rarely raise their voice, yet their words carry huge impact. Think about how we treat other powerful forces in nature. We don't vilify electricity. We respect its power and build systems to channel it productively. We don't try to put out fire. We learn to control and direct it. We don't dam rivers because water is toxic. We create channels that turn its force into something beneficial. You don't owe an explanation for your masculine fire, but you do owe mastery over how you direct it. This is what's missing in our cultural conversation. Instead of teaching men that their nature is basically suspect, we should be helping them develop the internal structure to channel their natural energy with precision and purpose. A man who has mastered his masculine fire doesn't reduce his strength. He applies it exactly where and when it's needed, with control that comes from self-knowledge rather than outside constraint. He's not less powerful. He's more precisely powerful. Precision isn't weakness. It's advanced strength. This shift in thinking, from viewing your masculine energy as suspect to seeing it as a force to be mastered, offers the relief from tiredness promised at the beginning. The drain you've felt doesn't come from expressing your nature, but from the constant energy spent justifying it. This mastery requires mentors, not critics. It requires initiation, not indoctrination. It requires a culture that recognizes masculine energy as a vital resource to be developed rather than a problem to be solved. Let's face an uncomfortable truth. Part of you has accepted the underlying premise. Part of you has internalized the suspicion against your own nature. You've become complicit in your own diminishment. You've been guarding the prison that keeps you small. How many times have you caught yourself apologizing for taking up space? How often do you soften your communication ahead of time to avoid being seen as too masculine? When was the last time you expressed your full strength without censoring yourself? Who taught you to fear your own power? The adaptive identity you've built, the careful, self-monitoring man who filters his natural responses through layers of anticipated criticism, is not actually protecting you. It's slowly killing the most vital parts of you. Your self-censorship isn't wisdom, it's slow suicide. Throughout history, men who mastered their fire understood three basic truths that we might call pillars of masculine wisdom. First, the pillar of conscious presence. The philosopher Heraclitus noted that character is destiny. How differently might you move through the world if you viewed your masculine energy not as something to justify, but as the very essence of your character, to be known deeply rather than explained constantly? Second, the pillar of precision. Aristotle's golden mean wasn't about moderation, but about precision. Finding the exact amount of courage, strength, and decisiveness each situation requires. Not an averaging of extremes, but hitting the mark perfectly. This isn't about being less, it's about being exact. Third, the pillar of sacred boundaries. The Stoics understood that true power lies in choosing what deserves your energy. What if you stopped defending your nature to those who misunderstand it and instead directed that fire toward worthy challenges? There's deep dignity in selective engagement. Not every situation deserves your full strength. What if the greatest act of courage available to you right now is to stop apologizing for your masculine fire? You don't owe an explanation for your masculine fire. What would change if you lived from this truth for just 1 week? If you stopped the endless internal commentary judging your natural responses? If you trusted your instincts toward protection, provision, and decisive action? Who would you become if you stopped living as if your nature was on trial? The shell you've built around your authentic energy isn't serving anyone. Not you, not your loved ones, not the world that desperately needs directed masculine power to solve concrete problems. Your hesitation isn't helping anyone. It's robbing everyone. Look at the men you most respect. Are they men who apologize for their strength, or men who have learned to direct it purposefully? Are they forever unsure of themselves, or confidently humble about both their power and its limits? Here's the soul punch. Your hesitation to fully occupy your masculine energy doesn't make you better or safer. It makes you less effective at bringing your gifts to a world that needs them. Your reluctance to trust your nature doesn't protect others. It deprives them of the unique protection only you can offer. Every time you water yourself down to avoid triggering someone else's discomfort with masculine energy, you betray not just yourself, but everyone who would benefit from your undiluted strength. The path forward isn't about defending masculine energy with words. It's about embodying it so completely, with such precise mastery, that its value becomes undeniable through your actions. Stop explaining. Start embodying. Return to that dinner table we imagined at the beginning. The narrowed eyes, the slight pulling back when you spoke with conviction. Now imagine a different response from you. Not defensiveness, not retreat, but a quiet, unshakable certainty about your nature. Imagine knowing so deeply that your masculine energy is a gift, not just to you, but to everyone it touches when properly directed. That others' suspicion becomes irrelevant to your self-understanding. This is the transformation available. From a man constantly seeking approval for his nature, to a man whose mastery of his nature makes approval-seeking unnecessary. Approval-seeking men change like weather. Purposeful men change the world. The ancients knew that transformation begins with perception, not technique. Marcus Aurelius didn't try to disguise his power. He recognized it as an element of nature to be directed with philosophical clarity. The Japanese concept of enryo offers another perspective. Disciplined restraint, born not from fear, but from deep respect for one's own power. This isn't about diminishment, but discernment, knowing exactly when and how to express your full strength for maximum impact. Notice how men of substance rarely explain themselves. They embody their nature with such clarity of purpose that explanations become unnecessary. Their fire isn't hidden. It's so precisely channeled that it illuminates rather than consumes. This shift in thinking offers immediate relief from the tiredness of carrying others' emotional reactions to your masculine energy. Rather than absorbing their discomfort as evidence of your excess, you can recognize it as their unexamined response to authentic power. The Roman Stoics practiced premeditation of evils, not to indulge anxiety, but to prepare for challenges through philosophical rehearsal. Consider applying this wisdom by anticipating moments where your masculine energy might trigger others' discomfort, not to diminish yourself in advance, but to recognize these reactions as expected phenomena that need not derail your centered presence. This mental stance alone removes the burden of surprise and defensiveness that has drained your energy for so long. Like an ancient warrior who expects resistance rather than being dismayed by it, you can move through the world prepared for the reactions your authentic presence may trigger. Your masculine fire, when consciously channeled, creates safety for others. It builds structures that last. It protects boundaries that allow vulnerability to flourish. It makes decisive moves when paralysis would lead to greater harm. The wound begins to heal when you stop treating your nature as something that needs defending and start treating it as something that needs developing. Not because it's problematic, but because its potential is too valuable to leave untrained. You don't need to convince anyone. You need to embody truth so completely it becomes undeniable. You don't owe an explanation for your masculine fire. You owe mastery of it, to yourself and to a world desperately in need of conscious masculine power. Comment below with, "I reclaim my fire." Let this be your declaration, not of war against those who misunderstand, but of taking responsibility for the energy you carry. This conversation about reclaiming masculine energy without apology is just the beginning. In the coming weeks, we'll explore how to specifically develop mastery over different aspects of your masculine fire. The Stoic practices for maintaining inner sovereignty amid external judgment. The warrior poet tradition that integrated strength with beauty and wisdom. The initiation rituals that transformed raw masculine energy into mature power across diverse cultures. The philosophical distinction between force and power that changed how history's greatest leaders wielded their influence. This isn't about quick fixes, but about reclaiming ancient wisdom that our modern discourse has forgotten. Subscribe to join this journey toward a more integrated, powerful expression of masculine energy. one that serves rather than apologizes. The world doesn't need weaker men. It needs stronger men with greater precision. Subscribe now and hit the notification bell to join this journey of reclamation. Not just for yourself, but for every younger man watching you, wondering if there's another way forward beyond either apologizing for his nature or revolting against those who demand he do so. Be the example that breaks this false choice. Be the man who neither diminishes nor apologizes for his fire, but masters it instead. Consider this final thought. What if the suspicion directed at masculine energy isn't actually about fear of its destructive potential, but fear of its clarifying power? The philosopher Martin Heidegger spoke of aletheia, truth as unconcealment rather than correctness. Perhaps this is what mastered masculine energy ultimately offers, not domination, but revelation. It uncovers what's authentic and exposes what's false through its unwavering presence. Throughout history, societies have simultaneously needed and feared this revealing quality. The Greek heroes weren't celebrated for their compliance, but for their capacity to stand in unveiled truth regardless of consequences. Socrates didn't die because he was wrong, but because he refused to dim his light when it illuminated uncomfortable realities. This reveals the deeper reason why masculine energy is treated as guilty until proven innocent. Not because it's inherently harmful, but because its natural state is to cut through social pretense. When fully embodied, it asks by its very nature, what is real here? Perhaps the tiredness you felt comes not just from carrying others' emotional reactions, but from denying this essential aspect of your nature. The capacity to stand in unvarnished truth and let others adapt to it rather than constantly adapting yourself to preserve their comfort. Truth doesn't negotiate. Neither should your essence. In its highest expression, masculine energy is not a force of domination, but of illumination, casting light on what's real and what matters. You were born carrying this fire for a reason. The world doesn't need you to extinguish it. The world needs you to master it. Stop explaining. Start embodying. Your fire is not guilty until proven innocent. Your fire is innocent until misused. The difference is everything.